A lot of people don't know about crankshaft end play, and I'll demonstrate that. That sound you hear is the crankshaft itself moving in the crankcase. It's normal. The prop is not loose, the blades are good. It's end play that's normal. In fact, if you don't have end play, you should do something about it. Another additional thing you could do if you have an airplane without wheel pants like this one is to check the actual action of the nose wheel strut. And it's easy to do. You just push aft on the tire. You might even feel or hear bubbles going through it if it's low on fluid. You can also check that it's not bottoming out. So it's a real easy thing. I'm not pulling down on the prop, I'm just pushing aft on the top of the tire. To make this work easily, the chocks need to be loosened or removed on the main gear also, so that the airplane can rock. Something else you can do on a pre-flight, on these flat steel type main gear, I've seen twice where, in my career, where the main gear U-bolt has broken. It belongs up under here and actually holds the gear up in flight. And in both cases where that's happened, it's been real obvious. If you just take take your favorite shoe and just give that main gear a good push forward and back about that hard, is enough to see that there is no relative motion between the gear itself and the structure of the aircraft. So once again, that hard's good enough. In two cases that were broken, it would move at least a quarter inch. It was real obvious. Both elevators, of course, are hooked together by what should be one solid assembly. If we pull up a pound or something on one side and down a pound or so on the other side, there should be no relative motion. Again, twice in my career I've seen failures in this area. One time it was this flange had elongated holes. The bolts had come loose somehow and shattered. Another time there was a very interesting failure. The rivets on this collar had half sheared inside where it was not apparent. But when I tried to move one elevator up while the other was going down gently, the motion became obvious and it was unairworthy. Right here was the motion. So we're looking up at the top of the rudder and vertical fin. It's pretty common to see airplanes that come in for annual or that I've occasionally been asked to fly. It's pretty common to see damage here from rubbing where the bearings on the rudders, the bearings have actually failed and allowed the rudder to sag. It's okay to grab the rudder at the bottom and along the trailing edge and just move it up and down and see if it moves. This one doesn't move at all. The new bearings are there. It's just been repaired. Anyway, it's good to check for rubbing. It's good to check for vertical motion on the rudder. There should be none or very nearly none. Also, another good thing, I expect most of you know, the flight controls all want to flutter naturally, and their flutter prevention is a counterweight up in front of the hinge several inches. So if this counterweight area here is not connected to the trailing edge of the control surface, it can't do its job. So a good place to check around the corner here for loose rivets on rudder and elevators or anything else with that sort of a horn on the end of it. In this view I can show you a couple things. We already talked about the area that's quite critical around the corner on the counterweight horn. It's okay to take a couple fingers and go down and up like this just to confirm there is no motion in this area. On this example, there's just a tiny bit of motion. You can barely feel it. One rivet I can see has some broken paint. And it's been repaired once already. This is actually the second go around on coming loose. So it's no crisis yet, but worth watching on pre-flight. The other thing I like to do is the horizontal stabilizer itself only has 4 bolts holding it on. And I've had a couple cases of airplanes that I've owned that have come loose from use, thousands of hours. But it's okay to push down a little. It's okay to pull up several pounds and then give it a little extra, kind of preload it and then a little more. Preload it a little more. Now, I'm getting just a little bit of oil canning there. You can see it as well as here, maybe. That's oil canning, it's not a failure. The kind of thing I'm looking for is a creaking noise or a pop, or where there's obvious motion between the horizontal fin and the fuselage itself. And while you're doing pre-flights, you want to take a look for other obvious damage. This belongs to a friend of mine. It's sort of a joke.